Welcome to the NFP Podcast, where we explore the empowering world of natural family planning. I'm Amy Smith. Join me and my co-host Emily Appledorn each week. Together, we're here to dive deep into the science, the stories, and the spirituality behind NFP. Every week, we push back against the free love culture and advocate for a culture of responsible love, where intentionality and respect are at the forefront of family planning. Join us as we discuss everything from the practicalities of charting and fertility awareness to the profound impact NFP can have on relationships and communities. Whether you're new to NFP or a seasoned pro, our podcast is your go-to resource for honest conversations, expert insights, and real-life experiences. So grab a friend, settle in, and get ready to be inspired. This is the NFP Podcast.
All right, guys, welcome back to the podcast.
Hi, everyone.
Emily and I are really excited tonight to have a beautiful couple with us to share their love story. Please welcome to the podcast, Connie and Kevin. Hey, guys, welcome.
Hi,
Thank you. Hi, everyone.
So let's start out how we normally do, which is to hear how you two met.
All right, I will take this one. So we met through a mutual friend. His name was Reed, his name is Reed. Connie went to, I guess, K through 8th grade with him. And then I met him in high school. And it just so happened that he was rooming with another friend of ours from high school in college at the University of Maryland. So the first week of that year, I think it was sophomore year college, Connie stopped by to see Reed's place, and I was there hanging out with everybody, and he introduced us, and shortly after that we started dating.
And you asked her out?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah. So I definitely, I asked Reed, pretty much, I said, who's that? He said, oh, that's Connie. That's a good friend of mine from, back home. We've known each other for years, blah, blah. She's like a sister to me. And it's funny because he said, yeah, good luck. And so I said, okay, I'll see. I'll take my chances. So, I didn't dive right in. I sort of just kind of hung out. We were, I guess, friends. And then I'd say about 2 or so weeks into it, I kind of, asked her out. I would take her, I think, coffee. She would sit at the desk and work like the graveyard shift at one of the dorms. So that was my in, I guess. I would get up early and go to work in class, and I'd stop by and give her some Starbucks, and we would talk and just kind of went from there.
That's really sweet. That's really sweet. How long did you guys end up dating for? Before you got engaged?
It was on and off. We started there in college, and so I guess in college it was about 6 months, and then there was about a year and a half break after that.
We were
okay.
At the time, though, right?
When we got together. Yeah, the story is definitely not as
very meandering.
Yeah.
So what can we ask? What spawned the year and a half? Everyone's going to be wondering, like, oh, well, what happened for the year and a half?
Sure, yeah. So I think it was just, being in college, not really understanding what we kind of wanted at the time. Yeah. So just kind of best to, not, I guess,
hurt anyone's feelings.
Right. Yeah. So,
right.
And of course, we stayed in touch that whole time. As friends, we obviously had a lot of mutual friends. So it was nothing. There was nothing really sort of negative about it, and obviously ultimately it really worked out in the end. So
we both had a lot of growing we needed to do, I think.
Nice.
Was anybody going like going to grad school or going like out at different location? Like, was it going to be long distance and you guys thought, oh, we should take a break, or it just felt like a good time to maybe?
It just felt like a time. We didn't really go long distance or anything. We both kind of stayed in Maryland for the most part, but I had gotten out of a gross 2.5 year relationship prior. So I just think mentally I felt like I just was not ready for something serious. And ultimately I think with him, I knew that it would be. And I was worried that if something didn't go right now, it would kind of spoil things for the future.
Gotcha.
It would be really hard. Yeah. After going through something messy before.
Yeah. I bet a lot of people can relate to that. Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay, so year and a half, not dating, but still kind of friends, talking to each other, still in good terms. And then how did you guys reconnect? redate,
So
start redating?
you were in grad school at
Yeah, I was in Baltimore.
Johns Hopkins, and I was living probably about 30 minutes from there with the same roommate from college. We got a place afterward. And again, we just kind of think I
We
think
had a Christmas party.
Oh, that's right. Oh, yeah. So we had a Christmas party and we invited a bunch of people. Connie came down. And then after that, I think, the next weekend I went up there and we went to dinner, and
Yeah, it was just very organic.
I think right after that was when things kind of started to get serious again. And
oh, that's awesome. Beautiful. So then, Connie, you felt like you were just in a better place to kind of re-enter a relationship.
For sure. I don't think I was mature enough at the time, and I was very angry about like what had happened prior, and I didn't want to carry all that stuff in and kind of dump it on him. It's not his fault. It has nothing to do with him. So
yeah, it's very mature. Okay, so then after you guys started dating again, how long did you date before you got engaged?
Oof.
Oh gosh,
5, 6 years. It was quite a long time.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, oh my goodness.
So we put the cart before the horse in a lot of regards with that. So we moved in. We dated for about 2 years. Then we bought a place together and moved in. And obviously during that time, we weren't really as involved or active in our faith during that time. And then I think when things started to kind of get serious, I started to kind of think about what kind of husband I wanted to be, what kind of father I wanted to be. And I went through 12 years of Catholic school. I was raised Catholic. And then I'd say probably sophomore year of high school, junior year of high school, when I kind of had that freedom to go out, kind of do as I wanted. I kind of deviated from that path, but as things got more serious in my life, and started thinking about those serious topics and questions, I think one day I just said, do you want to go to church? And you were kind of...
I think I said no.
Yeah. She was kind of surprised. No. I think she was kind of surprised by that. And it took some getting used to, but I think, she didn't, I think you were apprehensive, but we ultimately went to confession first.
Yes, I felt better. I was very stressed about that first confession. My palms were sweating.
So we went to confession, and this was probably, I don't know,
we started
a year and a half, 2 years before we got married.
A year and a half, and because we knew it was going in that direction, and that we wanted to get married in the church.
Okay.
And we wanted to have good habits established before we started, meeting with the priest and going through the pre-Cana and that kind of thing.
Right. So part of you knew the lifestyle you were living was not in line with the moral teaching of the Catholic Church. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So you were aware of that and wanting to correct that. You decided to go to confession. That's so beautiful, you guys. What a grace from God. What a grace from God. It's so hard, the humility that takes. That's so beautiful.
And
so
to
you guys
do
go
that
to confession.
Together.
Oh, go ahead, Emily. Yeah, it's beautiful.
To do that together. Connie, were you raised Catholic?
I was. Okay. I went to Catholic school for 9 years, so I was kindergarten through 8th grade for me, and then for him it was kindergarten through 12th grade. Yeah. Yeah, I was raised Catholic, but I wasn't... My family was never very devout or anything. It wasn't something that was kind of the center of our household. So I think ultimately it was easy for me to sort of deviate, if that makes sense.
Just get out of the habit even of,
Right.
Okay. It makes a lot of sense. So I'm curious if you wouldn't mind elaborating. So you guys are, I'm assuming, living together, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So you're living together. You're probably being one together during that time as well. Yeah. And then so you go to confession and you start to have this conversion process. Now, was it just, did you stop living together? Did you kind of split into different bedrooms? Like, how did you handle the situation as it was, knowing that you wanted to be living in a different way? This is how you're currently living and wanting to prepare for marriage. What did you guys do to prepare for that?
So leading up to that, when we were, meeting with the priest that married us, and we were talking about all of that, and obviously the first thing that he referenced was concubism. Obviously we were living in sin at the time, and I can't remember exactly how many days out, but I started sleeping.
Months, I think.
I started sleeping in our guest bedroom after all that, leading up to our wedding, and obviously we were, celibate during that time, and
That's beautiful, guys.
Confession, praying, and going obviously mass every weekend, meeting with the priest. So yeah, to answer that question, that's kind of how it went.
That's so beautiful, guys. And I think just so practical too, because there's so many people that are doing that nowadays. And I think it's almost like, if they were to feel that pull like you guys did, like something is, well, we know something is not right here, but like, do we want to like admit that, lean into that, like seek out the Lord's mercy in that? That beautiful, we've had a priest on recently to talk about the discernment of spirits, especially in like family planning and in relationships, and how the good spirit, it kind of nudges and pulls. He doesn't accuse or shame, but he kind of just stirs, in a gentle, loving way. And so I think to recognize you have that stirring, and then to know like, oh, here are actual practical things that you can do. Like you can go to confession and say, it wouldn't work to, get a whole nother place for 2 months. Well, someone can be in the guest bedroom. And if it were such that was still too much of a grave temptation, well, then you can go live with a friend for 2 or 3 months or whatever it is, like the whole cut off your arm, pull out your eye, like do what you have to do in order to follow whatever God's will is. And, that moral truth. So yeah, that just sounds so practical. Yeah, so much courage and so much humility, you guys. What a grace. That's amazing. Okay, so you're kind of living more as brother and sister during this time, praying, going to mass, still meeting with a priest. What a great priest too. God bless him. That's amazing. Not that it probably wouldn't feel that great, but it's kudos to him for calling you guys out too and saying like, hey, the way you're living is not okay, because that's just going to help your marriage. And that's why Emily and I talk about it all the time. It's like, this is not helping marriages by not acknowledging that the way that we're living before we get married is going to affect the end. Like it will, so we need to correct that now. Anyway, I'm like got goosebumps. This is so cool. So you're living like that. And then how does it kind of unfold as you get closer to your wedding day?
So yeah, I was in the guest room, and then we had a rehearsal dinner the night before, and at the rehearsal, the priest who married us heard our confessions. We did confession one last time before the sacrament, and then the next day we're at the church and got married, and that was that.
Yeah, beautiful. The night before, he had a separate Airbnb, and I had a house with some of my friends, which was nice for getting ready and everything. But
that's beautiful.
When he brought it to our attention and kind of gave us some guidance about some practical things we could do to kind of rectify what we have been doing for the last few years, it was more helpful, and I think we definitely felt more prepared for the actual sacrament itself by the time.
Right. Well, and then when you were able to come back together, how special. I mean, yes. God's mercy. I mean, it's just like, it's as far as the east is from the west, he covers our sin. And then you guys were beautifully, I'm going to cry. Like you were beautifully brought back together. Like that's just such a beautiful story of restoration. We're not even like 10 minutes into this and I'm already crying.
No, we were
that's
very
so
blessed.
You really are, guys. You really, really are. You really, really are. This is sadly a unique story. Sorry, go ahead.
In the beginning of and it's just the complete, I guess, 180 from how we were living when we met and in the early part of our relationship. It's just, if you had told us back then, it would have been kind of not believable. But now, mass every week. Especially, the confession thing that you were so nervous about.
Oh gosh, I was so stressed. Even the first probably 5 or 6 after going back, I'm like, oh my God, I have to tell this man I did all of these things, and what if I forget? And now it's just like, oh, now I feel bad if I don't go.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
definitely a change in habit for sure.
Yeah, it's a powerful sacrament for sure. For sure. Okay, so you both alluded to, so let's kind of pause there then. you both alluded to, having a Catholic education and upbringing and being raised in Catholic homes. Let's start with you, Kevin, a little bit. Dive a little bit deeper into that, in your education, both in school and then at home. How much were you exposed to the church's teaching on human sexuality, the goodness and the beauty of, what it means to be man and woman? Is that something that was really talked about a lot about at school, or even in your home life directly spoken about, or indirectly, et cetera?
So I would say, in the terms of the formal education, it was the very surface level view. It never got down into that more elaborate spiritual view. For example, it was just, contraception bad type thing. And not really elaborating on the why of that. And, like you said, the body, male and female, all that stuff. They never really got into the weeds, so to speak, with that. Even in high school, it was very much, like I said, that surface level view. And at home, not so much either. I think, my parents, when my father converted, he was Lutheran and he converted to Catholicism, I think in his 30s, and my mom was Catholic, but they weren't very, I guess, devout, at least at that level where they would be able to, articulate all of that elaborate stuff when it comes to, sexuality through the view of the church.
Okay. And then same for you, Connie, kind of the same question. How would you paint your upbringing, both in formal schooling education, but then also home life?
It was very similar for me as well. I do feel like the teachings at the school I attended was also very surface level. I remember learning about our cycles and how that can go on to create life. And, you don't want to create any barriers to that. I remember them going into the sacraments and describing them, but they never really sort of tied it into how that would look realistically, like in my life. It was, it felt very much like memorization, like, okay, this is what matrimony is. You do this whenever you meet that one person. This is what reconciliation is. This is how we kind of go through that process. It didn't really sort of relate to my life at the time. I don't know if that's just my memory of it or the fact that they didn't delve into it. But again, I only went through 8th grade, and you're 13 when you graduate 8th grade. So I think some of the more mature topics probably were left to the high schoolers and stuff. As far as the home life, I only have one relative that is very devout and practices very religiously. My grandmother, she has been probably the cornerstone, I guess, of the faith in our family. She's always gone, never deviated. If the woman misses church, something is gravely wrong with her. Gravely wrong. She's been that way since I was born. But in terms of my actual home that I was brought up in, my family, they don't practice. I mean, my mom's Catholic, was brought up Catholic. My dad went through the RCIA process, I want to say in his 40s or something. They weren't able to be married in the Catholic Church because he had a prior divorce, and they had to go through the whole annulment process. They actually got married in an Episcopalian church and then had the marriage blessed thereafter. So while they did all the things that you have to do with your children when you want them to get confirmed and want them to have first communion and that kind of thing, I feel like it was mostly to sort of check boxes and get us what we needed from our private education. I don't think there wasn't a whole lot of discussion of God and religion in my household, at least.
And yet the amazing grace of those sacraments that your parents had you guys receive still, like to be able to have access to our loving Father who just reached down and intervened at just the exact moment that you guys needed it. It's just so beautiful. You've got to love praying grandmothers too. They are saving the world. One grandchild at a time, I tell you. They're just amazing. Their little rosaries. I remember there's a little side story. I remember hearing this priest talk about shared the story about the power of prayer and the intercession of our Blessed Mother and praying the rosary. And he'd say, you know, the back of their church after daily mass, this little group of old women would gather to pray their little rosary. And he would say, you know, that is the most powerful army in the world right there, you know, and these little white haired ladies, like 10 of them, just praying the rosary every day together. And it's true. It's very powerful. So I agree. I'm grateful for prayerful family members, for sure. Okay. So background, kind of not really aware, vaguely, loosely of like, here are the don'ts of the church, but not the greater underlying why, you know, why and the yeses and the beauty of all of it. So you guys get engaged. So you're going through this conversion process during your engagement as you're preparing for marriage. Along the way there, did you start to learn about theology of the body, understand more about church's teaching and hormonal contraception? Was it during an engagement time or was it later after you guys got married?
So Father Scott, the priest who married us, he touched on some of that stuff vaguely. I think some of the stuff, or most of the stuff that I've, you know, learned, I kind of sought out on my own. You referenced theology of the body. So that was something, I don't know if Father Scott mentioned that, and that's where I went to look for. So either way, but anyway, once I realized that was out there, I went and tried and bought an actual copy of the, what was it? I guess they were, no, it was the Theology of the Body, I believe, is a collection of speeches that Pope John Paul gave. So it's not like, I don't know if he wrote it or if somebody just took.
There's a beginner's book.
Is it Theology of the Body for Beginners by Christopher West?
So either way, I bought this huge book of that, and so I watched some lectures from Father Mike Schmidt online that were pretty good, that spoke about that broke it down a lot better than the 1,200 page book that I bought. So that was very helpful.
That's awesome. Wow, you went straight for the hard level reading.
Unknowingly.
Right, not knowing. Yeah. Yeah, thanks be to God for the YouTube priests who can break down some of those concepts. Yeah. And how about you, Connie? Were you kind of understanding or learning about it that time too?
I was learning. I started the Bible in a Year podcast because, like he said, I feel like you really have to be a theologian to understand some of these topics. And I really enjoy the way Father Mike Schmitz kind of breaks it down. It's not how you read the Bible or would read it if you were to crack it open cover to cover. It might not make sense in that context, at least for me in my little brain. The order in which he presents it kind of helps my mind. So I'm sure, I don't know if you guys have listened to that podcast or anything, or maybe you're smarter than me and smart enough to actually just open the Bible and understand what's going on. But he starts out with reading whatever chapters he's going to read. Then you have a brief prayer, and then he will discuss it and kind of how it relates to what they were speaking about the day prior and how it might foreshadow what is coming. So I started doing that, but I don't think I really got into the deep understanding until I started having infertility struggles. That's when I started learning about natural family planning and that sort of thing, and the Creighton model teaching and the St. Paul Institute and everything. That it deepened my understanding a lot when I started having those struggles and started having to kind of advocate for myself and to look into those things.
Okay, so you guys get married, and during your early marriage, I mean, you had learned that, the church's teaching is we don't do IVF. I mean, this is going to sound like I'm doing the don'ts, but just for the sake of the podcast, our conversation, but we don't use contraception. We don't do IVF, artificial means. And you guys were on board with that and practicing that in your marriage.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay. So you started off doing that. And then did you want to achieve a pregnancy right away? Were you trying to avoid?
No, very much so.
We were trying to achieve, yes, immediately. Yeah, I had gotten off of contraception, I think 2019, in preparation for everything, because I knew that where our relationship was headed, and I didn't want to have any sort of barriers to that happening. And I also knew it wasn't right in the church's teaching and for my body. I mean, it just doesn't make you feel good. At least it didn't make me feel good.
Right. Okay. So you got off birth control. You're trying to achieve. How long into trying to achieve did you guys say, hey, something's off here? And were you using like a specific method? Did you know about cervical fluid and that you should time intercourse to try to achieve at that time? Or were you just kind of randomly engaging in acts of intercourse hoping to get pregnant?
So looking back on it now that I know what I know, I was using the Flow app, which is essentially useless. And I knew of cervical fluid, but definitely not to the extent I know now. So I was using the Flow app. I thought I was doing all the things because I was tracking. When we didn't have success for probably about 6 months, I got this fancy little device called a NaPro that tracks your 4 hormones, the urine metabolites of those things. So your luteinizing, your estradiol, your progesterone metabolites, and your FSH. And I thought, being the little scientist that I am, I could analyze this data and I could figure it out. Surely it's a timing thing. But that didn't end up being what was happening. I think around maybe 8 months.
I'd say 8 to 10 months.
Yeah, 8 months. I said something's not right.
And then what'd you guys do?
Well, initially, and this sounds very bad, I'm sure you're familiar with Shady Grove, Emily. I don't know if you are. I don't think they have it out in where you are, but
I'm familiar because we talked about
because
it.
Of my comments about them. I went to Shady Grove. They are the that's kind of where you go if you're having infertility struggles, or so I thought. I thought that they would, like, I know that they did the IVF and the artificial reproductive technologies. I know they engaged in all that. But when I went, I was looking for someone to find kind of what was wrong with me, because I had very painful cycles, mood swings, bloating, all of that. And it became very apparent after 2 appointments.
Yeah, I think it was like our, not ignorance, but we weren't familiar with the industry or where to go for that kind of help. Obviously, IVF was never an option for us.
Right.
And like Connie referenced, we just thought it was a place for women's health care, and she would go and she would tell them their symptoms and that we've been struggling.
They'll get to the bottom of it,
and they would check us out and see if everything was healthy. But like she said, after I think it was 15 minutes into the second appointment we had, they said, so we can start you on IVF. And
I got up and left.
And we were pretty much just like, oh, okay, okay, thanks, but no thanks. And then we started, I think that's when we really started looking for other options that would actually help Connie. And
right.
And so how did
IVF on us? Yeah.
Right. And so how did you guys, so I imagine that experience kind of makes you feel like, you're kind of like a cog in the wheel almost, like not really like this is personalized care. You're not really listening to my situation or my wants even. I told you I don't want IVF. Like I want to find the answer to this and you're just offering me IVF. Yeah, I can see that would be frustrating. So you guys leave there and then what did you do? How did you find a different answer?
So I was in several Facebook groups at the time. There was a Facebook group for people who specifically use the Anito device that I referenced before. And I actually met somebody in there that referenced Creighton model charting, and it seemed like she had kind of gone through all the things I had gone through. I ended up seeing a functional nutritionist because I thought maybe it's diet, maybe it's my lifestyle, and I can kind of optimize that and things will fall into place. So we got to talking and she told me about Creighton model charting, and she gave me the information for the teacher that she has. And that's how I met Emily.
Wow, that's amazing. And then I'm curious here. So, Kevin, you had mentioned that you had been more exposed to like theology of the body, right? So you were reading the intense literature, kind of following some Father Mike Schmidt stuff. And then as you started to learn NFP and the Creighton model with Connie, did you at all, I don't want to like put this into you, so this is not what happened, okay? Just say, no, I didn't think any of those things. But did you experience any of that, like kind of the connection between the theology and the body? Like, oh, like I'm seeing this kind of mapped out in not only Connie's body, but in like how our bodies are complementary.
Yeah, I did. I would say still by that point, and even now, my understanding is still at very basic. But I could definitely, feel that connection with her and going through this, obviously with her, and through the lens of everything that had happened over the last, 4 years with us, reconnecting with our faith, it was definitely a much deeper experience with her during that time, I would say.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Okay, so you guys, so meet up with this Creighton model teacher, who I think I know pretty well. And then, how long, yeah, kind of what unfolded. So you started working with her. Was this like shocking information for you, Connie? I know you had mentioned somewhere along the lines in school, you learned a little bit about the cycle. So was it not brand new, or was it like, yeah, I'm learning my body for the first time. And you too, Kevin, was it like, wow, this is a lot? Cause it's a great model teacher. I know sometimes the introductory session can be a lot. It's like, this is a lot of information.
I think I had a good understanding just from researching so much after I was irritated with the care I got at Shady Grove. So I think I had the baseline understanding, but when Emily started talking to me about all these different like mucus patterns, I remember telling her like I would carry my book with me to the bathroom wherever I was because I'm like, I don't know what this is. Let me make sure. And then poor Emily, I would text her probably every other day asking like this is what I think I'm seeing, but I'm not sure. So
yes. Did you send her pictures of it?
Did I? I think maybe once or twice.
It's totally cool if you did. I've gotten many a picture of
warning.
mucus on a tissue, and women are like, I'm so sorry to do this. And I'm just like,
But I don't
I've
know.
gotten like a million of these. I've gotten a million pictures of mucus. Like, please, this is not unique.
I don't remember if Connie specifically did, but Connie was always great about giving me a heads up. Like, hey, Emily, if you don't have time for this, we would voice text quite a bit. And it got to be where I was like, you know what? I have to listen to this outside of my current surroundings so that I can help you best. So anyway, but she was really great about giving me heads up. So it's good.
That's really funny. Sorry, I'm eating some ice. I just say that to say like, it's totally normal, right? Like totally normal in the beginning. Like, I don't know what I'm seeing. How the heck do I record this? What is this? What's going on? Yeah, the mucus, kind of the learning curve can be somewhat steep sometimes not. But anyway, yeah, just for anyone listening, if you feel like that too, if you walk around with your book, it's totally normal. If you text your teacher pictures, totally normal. It's all happened before.
Very normal.
Okay, so when did you start working with Emily? How long were you working with her?
I think we started I remember we were on vacation, so I think it was
summer.
Yeah. July.
Yeah, it was last summer.
Mm-hmm. Okay, 2024. And so she had you charting your cycle. And then what was kind of coming up? What were the suggestions? What were the next steps?
Lots of things. She said, everything you're experiencing is not normal, contrary to everything you've been told by every gynecologist you've seen to date. And I'm like, great. So I have been gaslit this whole time. Wonderful. But it was validating. I know she made me feel comfortable in asking all these crazy questions. I know there were many. And she just made me feel like, okay, you're not crazy. Like, this pain is not normal. These mood swings are not normal. This bloating, like, none of it is normal. And of course, she can't give like a medical diagnoses, but just from my charts, she would give me an idea of like, I see this in people that have been diagnosed with XYZ, and then just told me that I needed the institute.
Fantastic. Yeah. Emily is, pretend she's not here. She's the best teacher. Yeah. I think Emily is great. If she wasn't so busy and didn't have 2 little ones and a marriage, I'd be like, everyone should go learn from Emily. So anyway, okay. So you're working with her. She recommends the Institute, that's very Emily, because the Institute is great. And Emily is very good at recognizing when people need to go there. So recommends the Institute. And then what do you guys do from there?
I remember, thinking about wanting to go to Omaha. And before I said anything to him, I went to the Institute's website and I started watching about their pelvioplasty procedures. Because I'm like, okay, is it really worth like going all the way to Omaha? Like, that's far, whatever. So I look up the actual surgical video of them doing the pelvioplasty, which they don't really do many other places. And I'm like, I need that. That's where we're going. So I remember I had this whole speech prepared in my head. And I was ready to tell Kevin, and I just told him, like, I think we need to go to Omaha. And he just said, okay. I was like, that's it.
Yeah.
You're not going to like Omaha. Why Omaha? We're in the DMV. Like, surely you can't find a provider that can do all these things here. It's like, no, I can't. They're not there.
Right. Which is sad, but often very true. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was it that you guys were thinking was the issue before you went to Omaha?
Endo, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a lot. I've always had a lot of pain. It's only gotten worse. It was to the point where I would have to take well over the recommended NSAID, recommended dosage for the day to get any relief. And it doesn't knock the pain out. It would just make it so I could function, basically. But sometimes I couldn't. I would call out of work. I would have it was like a lot of systemic symptoms. My pain radiated from my spine to my kneecaps, and it was probably over half the month. So it's not just about when you're actively menstruating. It's if you have hormone dysfunction, which a lot of people with endometriosis do, those symptoms can start a week, 10 days, 12 days prior to actually the onset of menstruation. So when I started charting and actually listing all of my symptoms and looking at my charts, I'm like, I'm in pain more than I'm not. This isn't good.
That's so interesting. Yeah, I'd kind of get that perspective.
Yeah.
So you alluded to being on the birth control pill for a period of time. Was that strictly for family planning to avoid pregnancy, or was that initially where you put on that because of the symptoms you were having with your cycle?
It was from the pain. From the pain. I remember having pain when I started menstruating at 11. And then by the time I got to high school, it was unbearable.
Gosh,
and
sweetie.
My mom took me to the doctor, of course, and they, this will reset your cycle, or this will solve your problems or whatever. So I was taking it for pain at the time.
Yeah.
And I didn't like the way it made me feel. So I would take it on and off, and they would recommend oh, well, try this pill, try that pill. And immature me, I didn't know. It's all the same.
Right.
It's all the same. It's not going to help you.
So it didn't help with the suppression of your symptoms even?
It did, but it caused other symptoms. And I don't know if you want me to kind of go into all of that.
Yeah. I'd like to hear that, because I know for some women, this is the case, right? Some women, they are put on the pill for painful periods or different type of cycle abnormalities, and their symptoms are relieved. That's why they stay on it for 15 years, because they don't get additional symptoms, or maybe the other symptoms they get, they don't correlate it with that pill, or they're not as severe as the pain they experienced before. And so they take whatever symptoms they're getting now over what they had before, because it makes life more manageable. But then there are cases definitely, which is what you're sharing, which is it was awful without the pill, but then even with the pill, I just was substituting one awful for kind of a next.
Absolutely. So depending on which one I was on, I would break out, and I'm not someone who has trouble with acne or blemishes or anything typically, but when you disrupt your hormones and all the things that they do for you, my skin was awful. I could tell you what day of the month I would be getting a yeast infection. It was every month. And if I didn't have that, it was BV. And if I didn't have that, I was just angry. I was just a mean, angry person. I think you could tell a difference when I got off of it. I was not pleasant to be around, for sure.
Oh, sweetie, I'm so sorry. Gosh, I'm so sorry you went through that. So, so then you get to the Creighton model. You're going to go seek out the Pope Hall Institute. How long did that take from, you first reaching out to them, contacting, getting connected with the doctor, kind of getting out there? What did all that look like?
So I started with Emily in July. I think my package arrived in October, because you have to have a couple months of charting, and Emily has to write a nice letter of all the things that are killing you at the time so they can evaluate it. So I think my package arrived in October, and then they sent me instructions and the lab kit for blood work in November. And at that same time, in November-ish, when I got my packet for blood work, they also scheduled my diagnostic lab for February. So I had a couple months to continue charting, continue gathering data, get that lab work done, and it was nice to have time, because it's very involved, which I know some people might think that's a barrier, but I don't know how you know what's going on without it. Like how do you evaluate the like pre-ovulatory and post-ovulatory phase if you're not doing blood draws that frequently? I don't know.
Right.
So
Right.
I
In
think
the
I did
future,
that.
AI will have a wand and they'll just like wand you,
Right.
and then they'll know exactly where your hormones are at any point in time.
And that would be so nice. That would be wonderful.
Yeah. Like when our
But I did-
daughters are older, maybe that'll be the case.
I
but
pray. I hope mine doesn't have to deal with any of this stuff,
it'd be
but
great.
I
Yeah.
know where to go if she does.
Right. Okay, so you get your package, get all set. So February is like a diagnostic laparoscopic procedure.
Yes, so we went out to Omaha. I think it was just under a week that time. So they did the diagnostic lap, they did the selective HSG. They ended up cannulating my tubes because they were both partially occluded. They had high pressure. They did some biopsies, which was wonderful because I actually had a ureaplasma infection. I had no idea that I had this, I don't know how long. And then they did the S mapping of the abdominal cavity, which is wonderful because endo can grow anywhere. You don't want to just look at the pelvic organs. It can be anywhere. And if it's anywhere, it's still giving you all those inflammatory cytokines that are making it more difficult for you.
So after your February procedure, then what did you guys do?
I waited very impatiently for them to call me to schedule my the big surgical procedure with the robot because I had some adhesions as well. They wanted to use the robot to completely resect my, I think it was my left ureter from my descending colon. So they needed the robot for that. So that happened in April, and I think we also that's when we did the follicular like ovulatory series, the ultrasound series.
Okay.
So
you were in Omaha for a little while that time.
Yeah, probably about 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yep.
Were you working remotely during that time, or what did you guys do? Just take off?
Yeah, I actually had just started a new job.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You know, my boss has been wonderful, so I was able to get sick leave advanced to me.
Oh, that's nice.
So I took 2 weeks worth of sick leave, and then I was able to work remotely, I think, for the 6-week period after the surgery, which was nice. I think that helped a lot.
That's a blessing. Yeah. How about you, Kevin?
Yeah, my company had a very generous time off policy, so I was fortunate enough to be able to go out there for 2 weeks, and obviously not working during that time.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's great. And what was your perspective of all this, Kevin, during this time, and of the Pope Paul VI Institute? Since you guys had been to an IVF clinic, obviously not for IVF, but you'd seen that approach to medicine versus this. Yeah,
so I would say, obviously, from my background, I'm the youngest of 4 boys. I have no sisters. So I figured the best thing for me was to just kind of sit back and figure out the best way that I could serve Connie during that time and support her, in my role as her husband, whether that was, going to appointments, financially, with whatever she needed. I would say in terms of the Institute, the saddest thing is that clearly they found all this stuff with Connie that they needed to address. And the Shady Grove, when we went to them, they said, nothing's wrong with you. You're perfectly fine. Let's start.
Explain.
Yep. Let's start IVF. And I'd say overall, that's my biggest takeaway, is that there's tons of women out there who are getting the same treatment Connie got. These people telling them nothing's wrong with you. You're ovulating. You're perfectly healthy. We don't need to run these tests. We're not going to look at this. Here's IVF. And then they send them down this path, and it can ultimately never lead to pregnancy and exacerbate some of these issues. So I'd say that's probably my biggest takeaway.
Yeah, for sure. And I imagine, Connie, you had something similar. It's very disheartening to hear. And I think even more so because when you think about how conception happens and implantation and baby growth and live birth, we think about all the stages. And then you think of, well, all these underlying issues were happening with you, Connie. So say you went IVF route. To your credit, Kevin, your likely it probably wouldn't have worked in that, like, you probably would have had all these babies in a petri dish and none of them would have made it to live birth, and that would have been so sad and so much money. Obviously, so sad first, right? But also so much money and time wasted just to still not end up with holding your baby at the end, because you weren't healthy,
And to
So,
still think that at that point, couples are still told unexplained.
right,
We just don't know.
right.
I think that's something that we talk about, but we could talk about that forever, because I think I was just talking to a couple about this recently. To be able to process, just like you described, Kevin, getting to the institute, being shown the video, knowing what needs to be done, and connecting that to all of the pain and suffering that you've experienced up until then, it's really hard to process. I think there's a grieving, there's a hope, because you're like, okay, I do have answers, but there's so many mixed emotions in that moment, I think. And I think that's a really hard moment for couples, even though there's hope, because they're telling you we can help you, but you're still just going through all this past suffering of that, but this doesn't match up, How can healthcare be such a dichotomy? That's, I think, what is so hard to.
Right.
And
How
I
can
think,
one, yeah, go ahead, Kevin.
I was going to say, I think during that experience was the first time where I heard a doctor just say that they knew something was going on medically without having any proof or testing. I think in that one session we had, Connie was, I guess, surprised by his analysis. And one of her questions was, well, how do you know that I'm even ovulating? And he just kind of smugly said, I know you're ovulating. Yeah. He was like, and she said, but how? And he said, I know you're young and healthy. You're ovulating.
You bleed every month.
Yeah. And I was just kind of blown away by that. I mean, even with what limited knowledge I had at the time, I just thought, how can that be?
Yes. Good question, Kevin.
It was very surprising to,
yeah, for sure. Yes. Yeah, that's such a great question. Just to pause and think. I was talking to a friend recently actually about something, because they were struggling to get pregnant again just for like a little bit, like it just wasn't happening for whatever reason for a few months. And she was asking her doctor, like, hey, could we just like check my tubes or something? And he's like, no, let's just give you this ovulation stimulating drug. And she told me this story and I backtracked with her. I was like, let's just think about that. Okay. So he's just saying, let's just give you this ovulation stimulating drug. Does he know that you're not ovulating? Because if you could already be ovulating, but what if your tubes are blocked? Then the egg's not able to get up there. I was like laying out all the stages and steps. She ended up getting pregnant. They ended up getting pregnant like the next month. So she didn't end up having to do anything. But it was like, I just like honed in on that, the nerdy person that I am. And I was like, let's just break this down. And I did it really because I was like, if you're in another conversation with a group of women and they go to the doctor and this is what the doctor says, here's kind of what you can now suggest to them to say, hey, in the sequence of how this whole process happens, let's think about what should be investigated first and then second and then third, So anyway, whether it's from the grassroots in the couple or from the doctor down, it's got to start somewhere, like let's actually think this through. Okay. So you get in for your big surgery. When was that?
That was in April this year.
April of this year.
It was around Easter, wasn't it?
Oh, yes, cool. It was the Wednesday before Easter. Yes, we went to church at St. Cecilia's.
Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, I've been there in Omaha.
Yeah,
that's a beautiful parish. Yeah, that's a beautiful parish. Wow. So Wednesday you had the surgery and then, wow, you made it to Easter Mass on Sunday.
Yes, awesome. I was surprised. I was moving very slowly.
Oh, that's so great though. Yeah, that's so great. Let's say that's a real Good Friday experience for sure. Yeah. The recovery. So you recovered from that. What was the prognosis? What did the doctor say, before you left Omaha? Like, things look great. Here's what we did.
Yeah. So prior, she said just by removing I think this was when we were there in February. It was at my post-op when we were there in February. She said based on the amount of disease that was in my body, just by removing that would improve our chances by like 80%. And I was like, ooh, that sounds good.
Yeah, that's a good number. That's amazing.
So Go ahead, Emily.
I just think they wouldn't say that if they didn't have the research, right? Like, I think that is so incredible for a couple to hear. Those doctors wouldn't say that if they didn't feel confident that that was the case. 80%.
Well, and just like a truth of the body, like we got the disease out of the way. And so now the body can do what the body was made to do,
Right.
like kind of, yeah. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. Okay. So that's exciting to hear that number.
Yeah, that was a big number. So after surgery, I think Kevin could probably speak to this better because we had my post-op the next day. We actually left the hospital and went directly to talk to Dr. Hilgers. But you had also spoken with her post-op while I was in recovery. And admittedly, I'm like, man, I wish my post-op was a couple days after because I feel like I would have remembered more. But everything, I mean, she was able to get everything. She was able to clear out the adhesions. She removed my appendix, which looked inflamed. She did a rebiopsy of the uterine lining at the time to make sure that that ureaplasma infection was cleared. My tubes still looked good. And basically, I mean, if I'm leaving anything out, let me know. But everything went fine. Yeah. They were able to do everything she set out to do, remove everything she identified in that first surgery.
That's amazing. So you go home, and did you have a first cycle?
I was in the middle of a cycle when I had the surgery. So I was ovulating, or I should have ovulated while I was out there. I ended up having a luff, but I was taking lots and lots of ibuprofen.
Can you describe what a luff is for someone that might not have experienced that?
Yeah. So it's a luteinized unruptured follicle. It's basically when your body is preparing to ovulate, but the egg never actually kind of bursts forth from the follicle. So it just is a large cyst that sort of continues to grow and eventually gets reabsorbed by the body. But there's no chance of pregnancy because the egg is never actually released. And it can be caused by NSAID use, and I was definitely using a lot of those at the time.
Yeah, recovery will do that to you. Yeah.
So I technically had one period, but the next cycle, I never had a next cycle. I never had a next period. Yeah. Yes. So I don't know if my pain is reduced or anything. I'm sure it will be. There's no way I can't conceptualize removing like the lesions that she was able to remove from my body. I can't imagine that I wouldn't have decreased pain after that.
And did she say anything about, you'll have to have this surgery every 2 years or every 1 year? Wow.
No. She said many women don't have to have it at all. If you get a thorough excision, it's very important to have excision, not ablation. And it's very important to go to people who specialize in this because I actually ordered the St. Paul surgical textbook that they teach their residents with because I'm nutty. And these lesions can look so different to like barely there, like opaque little tiny white plaques. They can look like little specks. They can be the gunpowder, very obvious, like dark blue lesions. They can be very obviously like red and angry, but it doesn't all look the same. So if you're not looking everywhere in the abdomen, if you don't know what you're looking at or what you're looking for, and if you're not removing it appropriately, it's not necessary. It's a resurgence of what was there before.
Emily,
how she said it to me.
Right. Emily, I feel like this is like a repeat of our conversation that we had earlier today with the doctor. We had another podcast interview today with a physician talking about recurrent miscarriages. And on there, we were just trying to highlight like the differences between going to a restorative reproductive medicine, a NaPro trained, like specific in your case, someone who's really trained in these special techniques, trying to reiterate to the patient population, like there is something different about these doctors, you guys. Like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry it's not the doctor down the street who says they can do this endometriosis surgery. It's not the same as this person over here who's going to do the endometriosis. This person is trained in a very specific way, just to all the points that you were making, Connie. So again, it can be hard to hear that, right? Like it takes the extra step to go out and to find that specially trained person. But it's really important that they are different. And if you really want to kind of nip it in the bud and not have it come back and have the right procedure done, you really got to go to where they can do that process.
Right.
So how are you feeling now?
I mean, I feel good now. I'm just dealing with, pregnancy symptoms, but I'm in the second trimester now. So the first one was rough. I was so tired, but that's better now. So now I just
Congratulations.
thank you. We were shocked, and even when I emailed the institute to let them know, because of course they give you instructions after you've had your surgery completed and you've been given the green light to go ahead and start trying to conceive. I emailed them, and one of the nurses called me and says, "Dr. Hilgers was shocked."
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
so
Yeah, that's a really quick turnaround time. My
yeah,
goodness, that's
we didn't
amazing.
expect it. I wasn't even. The only reason I tested was because I couldn't shut my drawer anymore with all my tests and um, like menstrual care products and that kind of thing. I was actually complaining to Kevin. I'm like, I really feel like my bloating should have gone down by now. I don't know why it's not going down. I'm so frustrated. It's been 6 weeks. Like, what's going on? And that's what's going on.
That's
I
so
remember
funny.
you saying about the back pain. You were so frustrated that you were having some back pain, and looking back, it was
Bad.
implantation. But
Like,
it's,
what is going on? This was supposed to be better. I did all the things.
It was
Oh,
funny.
that's funny.
We were at a party for one of her friends, and I remember this was 2 or 3 days before she took the test.
Yeah.
She was sitting there talking to her friend. She's like, "I'm just so bloated. I don't know why I'm so bloated. Like, this is ridiculous." And then her friend, when she texted her friend on the day she found out, she was like, "Yeah, could have been obvious.
Dummy.
Yeah,
And
Dummy.
that's why. Yeah, that's probably why
yeah."
you felt so bloated.
Right.
That's amazing, you guys. Congratulations. So, do you know if it's a boy or a girl?
It's a girl.
A
Yeah.
little
Maybe.
girl.
They can tell at
Congratulations.
6 weeks now.
Yeah. Did you do some blood work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did the sneak peek test, I think.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's so exciting, you guys. And so when are you due?
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you. February 11th.
February 11th. Oh, the Feast of Our Lady of Lourdes.
Yep.
That's beautiful. You guys, this
Yeah.
is such a great story. Praise God. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. Congratulations, you guys. Gosh, congratulations. I'm really eager, Connie. I'd love to hear like postpartum when you start cycling again. Like, gosh, I want to hear so much. Like how does that feel?
I'll
Because
let you know.
yeah, because I imagine, I mean, you went so much of your reproductive life in so much pain. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm obviously super thrilled that you're pregnant, but yeah, it would be so interesting to hear like, wow, I just like have a menstrual bleed and like it's not a big deal. Like I
Well,
don't
I
have to take
can stand it
medicine.
up.
Right. Like that's just amazing. Yeah, I can function and go about my day. Wow. Well, congratulations, you guys. What a beautiful story. Thank you so
It's
much
so
for sharing.
special.
Yeah,
So
it really
special.
is. Before we wrap up, thank you for your time as well tonight. Maybe if there's anything you kind of like final thoughts or closing remarks you'd like to share with maybe the younger version of yourselves, before you guys got married or were dating, kind of what would be, I don't even know if it's like a piece of advice, but so, if you could kind of write a letter to your younger self, what would you say?
You want to go first? Or you want
Sure,
me to?
I'll give you some time to think
No,
about
I have my answer. You need to
it.
think.
No, so I mean, as I guess as blunt a way as possible, I would have just told my younger self, I guess around sophomore year of high school, that my way or sort of the way that society was saying that what was okay and what wasn't okay in terms of new ideas that, relatively speaking, are about 5 minutes old, don't really hold up or stand a chance against the teachings of the church that are thousands of years old at this point, and tried and true. So whether or not you think you know best, you probably don't. So just stay on that path, and things will definitely work out for the better.
How about you,
And
Connie?
oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, how about you?
Oh, I think I have two thoughts. One would be everything that you think is important really isn't important, and there is going to come a time, whether it's sooner or later, where you definitely need to rely on something much bigger than yourself, much bigger than your family, and I mean that's God. You can't fill it with anything else. I mean, you can try, but it probably won't work out very well for you. You probably will be much worse for wear than if you had just, listened to what he said, investigated the 10 Commandments, kind of try and understand everything he stood for and live your life that way, because it makes things so much easier in a way. And all the things I used to think were important, social status and that kind of stuff. No, it doesn't matter. None of it matters. And I guess the second part in terms of the medical aspect is, if you think there's something wrong, there probably is something wrong. And don't let, just because someone's a doctor and they went and took the time to get their medical degrees and everything, that doesn't mean they're good at their job. You can be in any profession and not be very good at it. So just because someone tells you there's nothing wrong with you, it doesn't necessarily mean there's nothing wrong with you. It just means you have to look harder, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah, that's a really great point. Yeah. And Emily and I talk about this all the time. It's like repeating ourselves ad nauseum, but just to know, like, doctors are your primary care doctor. They're doing the best they can with the information they have. That's what they're giving you.
Yes.
So to your point, Connie, if in your gut, you're like, no, something is off. Like, I know you're saying my blood work looks great, but I'm in pain, or this is not right, and try to like seek out. I think a lot of the grassroots movements, like the Facebook groups, I mean, looking up on Instagram, like there's just like a lot of great things on social media nowadays. And even just searching the web, you can start to find some different alternatives. So that's great, guys. Thank you again so much. You just are a beautiful testament to the grace and mercy of God and how he wants to bring his children back to the fold and wants their human flourishing. And I was thinking too, Emily and I right now are reading through an encyclical on the podcast about, it's called The Truth and Meaning of Human Sexuality. And it's kind of like a guideline for parents as to how to educate their children in the gift of human sexuality and the faith. And hearing both of your backgrounds and your story now, you guys are you're blessed with this little girl to present her with a completely different experience. You guys get to do it all over. Like, you guys get to share with her the why. And I'm crying. Like, you get to change your family tree, you guys. Like, it's a serious responsibility. It's also a beautiful opportunity that God has given you. Like, that's amazing, like your path to sainthood, and she's going to get to bear the fruit of that. Like, it's just so beautiful. It's so beautiful, you guys. And again, I've said this already at the beginning of the podcast, but gosh, you guys should be so grateful. Like, you have been given huge gifts. And maybe, I'm sure you already do this, but to be praying for other couples and their conversion before they get married. That is just like, you guys can be the patron saints of that. You guys can be the patron saints.
Yeah.
One day, you guys can be the patron saints of that. That would be just so cool. Yeah. So we know to pray. Ask Connie and Kevin to intercede for us.
I love that so much. Amy.
Yeah, so cool. That. Yeah. Okay, well, thank you both again so much for your time and for joining us. I know you've just blessed so many people with this amazing story. Thank you, Emily, for getting them to come on and share.
I'm so grateful. I also want to say your story is such a testament to how the Lord wants to heal us, right? Like, he wants this for us. He wants this baby, obviously, but he wants your health too, right? And even though that was such a suffering, there's so many amazing aspects about your body and this life for your family that have just all been redeemed thus far. It's so beautiful.
Really and to watch the hierarchy of healing, like to first start at the spiritual with your story of coming back to the church and coming back to confession and coming back to the Lord and developing those relationships, and then to move into the physical and now to bring new life. Oh my gosh, it's just so cool. It's so cool, you guys. It's just so cool. And it's not anything for you. It's like in scripture, it's not for you to boast. It's your glory is in the cross of Christ. Like, praise God for his redeeming love. It's just so amazing. Okay, I have to stop because I'm just going to keep going. And my husband already came in and was like, bedtime. We need to do bedtime.
Thank you for being so humbled to share. Because I know that this is definitely, it's going to help so many couples. I know it can be hard, but you guys did an amazing job. So
it was wonderful. Yeah. Thanks guys so much.
Yeah, definitely a first for us, but thanks for having us. Yep. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, guys, we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.
That wraps up another episode of the NFP Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you found our discussion enlightening and empowering. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. We'd love to hear from you. Please connect with us by sending us an email with your questions and stories to thenfpshow@gmail.com. We'll be back next week with more insights, tips, and heartfelt conversations about natural family planning. Until then, love responsibly.